What's up, everybody? I'm with Judith Sonnet. It's just going to take me a moment to get everything set up here. So just bear with us.
Rufus, stop. What are you doing? Hi. There's my dog. Oh, Andy's gone.
Yeah. And sharing now, so it should be going through. We already have a couple viewers.
Hi, viewers.
Hello, everyone. I will try and keep track of everyone's comments. So if you want to, drop a comment so I can see it. I will see if I see it. See if I can watch that. There we go. I see Warren and Jason Davis are with us. All right, so with that, so your dog was trying to jump on screen.
He was. He might come back up on screen soon.
That's awesome.
He's
So
got that look. He's got that look in his eyes. Rufus, come here. Jump up. Jump up. Come on.
I didn't give you the there.
Oh, there he is.
Look at the cutie.
Hi, Rufus. Hi. Oh, what a cutie. What a sweetheart.
I didn't give you the
Okay,
pre-warning.
we'll play in a moment. We'll play in a moment, Rufus. And Judith has to work.
You may see or hear cats. So.
Oh, good. Oh, Rufus.
Yep. Popping in and say, hey, Warren, Jason, I see your comments. So everything's good.
If you hear heavy breathing, that's the dog.
All right. So everything's going good. So while we start out, please, I'll hand everything over to you. Please introduce yourself and tell the folks who you are and what you do.
Hi, I'm Judith Sonnet. I am a horror writer. I've been doing this for a couple years now. I've written The Home, No One Rides for Free, Torture the Sinners, and two Summer Never Ends books. So known for splatterpunk and extreme horror, but I kind of write it all.
Absolutely. You've been venturing into the quiet horror realm. How has that been transitioning to
It's been
one
great.
subgenre to the other?
I feel like, I never wanted to be the sort of author that's like pigeonholed into one subgenre. And so there was a little nervousness about like stepping away and coming back with something new, but people have been really great about embracing the new stuff, and I'm just very lucky to have such a loyal readership. But yeah, they've made it easy to see this as a viable option for me to continue writing quieter stuff. But also just it's really fulfilling to me because I was getting to the point where I was like, okay, the next extreme thing I write is going to be the thing that burns me out, and
Right.
I'm going to not want to do this anymore. And so it's like that means it's time for something new. So for me, it's been a lot of fun. I'm working on like several different projects at once right now, and they've all made me very, very happy. Rufus, what are you doing? What are you doing?
Um,
Stop it, Rufus. Stop doing that.
there's a few things to touch on there with what you said. Like, I think it's, I think it's for the author. I think it's important that they don't really, you know, attach a certain genre label to themselves, especially because they may be full force wanting to write what they're writing now, say splatter, punk, or extreme horror, but who knows how many years down the line that they actually write something different or
Yeah.
like
And
quiet
I
or
I use
psychological.
I use the food analogy a lot of like you don't want to have the same meal every single day of the week. You'll get tired of it. So
Exactly.
yeah.
So, I mean, and then there's some writers that may do that for their entire writing career,
Yeah.
but
If it works and makes them happy, go for it. But like doing only extreme and only splatterpunk wouldn't have made me happy. So I'm happy I can stretch out and do the quiet horror. But next year I might have an extreme idea I want to do. I'm not going to close myself off from that. I might want to do a Western. I might want to do romance. Like
yeah,
I want to just keep all avenues open for me.
yeah, and I think that's important for writers to understand, especially if they're first starting out. Like very early on when I started writing, I just labeled myself a genre fiction writer, like whatever genre. I didn't say a specific genre, so I just said genre fiction. So
That's
when I had
smart.
my
That's a good way to do it.
yeah, when I had my first banner made up, I think they make them in India. It's from Best of Signs, I believe, and I guess it's lost in translation, but they put generic instead of genre author. So, so I have my very first banner that says generic, generic author. So I was like, that's perfect,
I
you
love
know.
that.
And that was a joke
Send
for
me
a
a
while.
picture of that banner sometime.
I'll have to dig it out and bring it out for one of the cons for sure. So, um, for you, what got you started on your writing journey?
I've kind of always wanted to be a writer. The very first thing I ever wrote was basically a ripoff of Arthur Conan Doyle's The Lost World. And I did that when I was like in third grade in composition notebooks. And I keep telling people I wish I kept those notebooks because it would be so fun to look back through them. But yeah, it's always kind of been something that's important to me. I had a lot of trouble like learning to read when I was younger. So when I finally got it, I jumped into it and just devoured absolutely everything I could. And then I went from like in 1 year, I went from reading like below the expected reading grade to reading like high above it. And so like reading and literature has always been a passion of mine. I joke that it's the only thing I'm good at. um, but it's been a long time coming for me to want to actually have other people read what I've been writing. And now I get to do that, and that makes me happy.
Yeah, yeah. I think a lot of people will dabble in the beginning, but and wish that they. A lot of people do have their early stuff that they tinkered with, but yeah, like if you don't have it now, it would be really fun to look back and see your almost your thought processes when you were writing that stuff versus how
Yeah.
you are now, and just see how much you've grown and the way you look at the world is a lot different. So
Well, it's been fun. There's a an author friend of mine, AD Arrow, who writes the Bumps in the Nights books, has been posting like all the old Goosebumps type books he wrote when he was in elementary school, and he like illustrated them with crayons, and they look so fun and cute. And I wish I still had my early works.
yeah,
Yeah.
I see that London Blue and Allison Hodana has joined us. Um, hello, guy. Hello, everybody.
Hi.
And there was something you said. Okay, so you said early on too that you were kind of mimicking Sir Arthur Conan Doyle. Was there any authors aside from that one that early on has maybe influenced your writing career what it is today?
Well, R.L. Stein for sure.
I think there's a certain age group of writers where R.L.
Yeah.
Stein is their Stephen King, you know?
I mean, I grew up like with the Scholastics book fairs and everything, so I'd always get the goosebumps when I could.
Absolutely.
Um, and I think there's a lot to admire about R.L. Stein's work beyond just the nostalgia. I think he's a really gifted craftsman when it comes to horror, and especially for writing such restrained horror that little kids can read it and still enjoy
Yeah.
it. Um, but yeah, read a lot of him. Horror influences otherwise, like obviously scary stories to tell in the dark. There's a few books I very vividly remember reading when I was a kid, and I still can't remember the names of them, and I've been like ruthlessly hunting them down. When I find them, I'll let you all know what they're called.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I understand that. So, aside from writing, what movies formed the author you are today? I know maybe the past couple of years you've been really into giallo, but in
Well,
your
it's
youth,
in my youth, I was still into giallo movies.
was you?
Like I watched Tenebrae when I was in high school, and that's one that's had a lot of influence on me. But beyond giallo, like Italian movies in general, I'm a huge fan of Lucio Fulci, his zombie movies, Dario Argento when he does like weird supernatural stuff like Suspiria. Lamberto Bava is one of my favorite directors. But yeah, I've kind of had a wide variety of all that too. Um, my parents were really down for me like watching older movies when I was a kid, so I saw a lot of old horror movies. I very vividly remember being terrified of the original Nosferatu, Creature from the Black Lagoon, Mole People, stuff like that. So like Italian splatter films and 1950s B movies are for me, I feel my strongest influences.
Right. I get that. Um, that's interesting. That it wouldn't be so much your 70s, 80s, 90s slashers.
I love
Campy.
those too. Yeah.
Yeah. Because um I think I see that a lot in your writing as
Thank
well,
you.
but
Well,
it's an
especially
amalgamation of everything that you've been influenced by, you know.
yeah. But
But
like Summer Never Ends too is like a love letter to 80s slashers. Like I'm a huge fan of The Burning, huge fan of Madman, stuff like that. So
that's awesome.
thank you.
If you if you was to suggest um one or maybe a handful of people that have not experienced giallo films or Italian horror in altogether, what would you tell them to seek out if they were curious?
So Giallo movies are great because they're basically pulp murder mysteries with slasher style kills in them. So I would tell them to watch if they want to get like they've never seen any of them before. They need like a movie that'll introduce them to everything the genre is about. Dario Argento's Deep Red is like the quintessential giallo movie. It's got a great mystery to it. It's got amazing kills. I love the ending so much. It's got a fantastic music score too.
That's a so there you go, folks. If you're interested in an Italian, a classic Italian giallo horror film, that's one to go to. Of course, I've seen a few, and Suspiria is always up there.
Well,
Favorite genre.
Suspiria isn't really a giallo.
Is it not?
No,
Is it
it's.
because
I
it's a
mean,
witch? It's like a witch
yeah. I
story.
mean, I think the only like thing that carries over because it's directed by the same guy that did Deep Red is there's a killer with black gloves. But giallo, like that word means yellow, and it's yellow because old pulp detective stories were printed on recycled pulp paper. So any giallo movie is going to have like a deep connection to detective stories. But
So,
like I yeah, I'm in the Suspiria is not giallo camp. There's kind of debate about that.
so it's like detective noir stories from Italy.
Yeah, it's noir, but with heavier gore and violence. Yeah.
That's cool. Um, yeah, like I'm very lacking in Japanese horror, like the classic Japanese horror and
Yeah, me
Italian
too.
movies, but I have seen Suspiria. And the thing that stood out with that one particularly is the sound work in that movie. Like the sound
Yeah.
is really good. Like very unnerving at times and plays with your
Well,
emotions.
all the sound is dubbed because they were building sets while they were filming. So all the actors were like acting around like buzz saws and power drills going off in the background. So the whole film was basically shot silently, and then they did all the dubbing and all the effects work. So it's got a very clean, crisp sound to it because of that.
Yep. So it does make sense. I'm trying
Yeah.
to catch up on some comments we have, and I see that Holly Landis did make it. She was worried she would miss this one. So
I'm
glad to
glad you're
see
here, Holly. Oh my God.
Holly there. And basically, everybody loves Goosebumps. I see Alicia.
Oh, it's so
See, I
good.
never know. Alicia Troll is here. So glad to see
Hi,
you.
Alicia. I can't see any of the comments, so I'm gonna have to
Yeah,
rely on. Yeah.
I'm I'm trying to they changed however they used to do it like a month ago. This is how fast they changed this streaming platform. But a month ago, I would be able to show you, and I would be able to pop them up on the screen for us to even read with everybody else. But they're
Maybe
it
maybe
just.
I can go to the page.
But I'm like keeping track of everything through multiple channels.
Yeah.
So,
I think I can see a few of them. I don't know if I can see all of them. No, I can't. Sorry. Oh well. I love y'all. I'm sorry I can't see you.
London Blue says, so I'm still hung up on Judith open to writing a Western. I've always hated Westerns, so I'm curious, how would you pull the anti-Western crowd into your work?
I honestly, I probably wouldn't. I would probably. I've been thinking about a Western idea for a while, and it's like my grandfather wasn't into horror movies, but he loves westerns, so he showed me a bunch of like the old 1950s ones. If I wrote a western, it would be very slow burning and very kind of traditional. So I'm waiting until I have a more revolutionary idea before I start in that.
We talked about Italian horror. Now, if we ventured into spaghetti westerns, I am quite versed in those. So,
Oh, cool.
so
I
I
know the
do
basics. I haven't dug too deep into that yet.
yeah, anything with Clint Eastwood or uh,
Oh yeah.
the Man with No Name trilogy.
Yeah, those are great. I
I was trying to
know
think of that director.
I know Fulci has a Western. I forget what it's called, but it's in Arrow Video did a big box set of like weird Westerns directed by like horror directors. And it's a really fun one.
Yeah, that's cool. Um, there's just like so many. Not even in literature, you get your subgenres, which is endless and countless. But in literature and in movies, you get regional genres. So Italian horror is its own thing, Korean horror is its own thing, Japanese horror is its own thing, completely different from one another. American horror, it's just all wild to try and keep up with. So if you try to be an expert in one, it's hard to be an expert in all of it. Like,
Yeah.
yeah, and you
I
miss
don't
so
think there really
much.
are any experts. Like there's always something new that you can learn about anything.
Yeah, studying it too. Like, but um, it's just especially with today, like trying to keep up with reading or viewing the latest
Yeah.
great. It's impossible. There's a TBW to be watched
Yeah.
alongside your TBR. um,
I, I
so
keep missing out on a few of the big ones that everybody tells me I'll like. I'm like, I'm
yeah.
sorry, I gotta wait till it's cheap on DVD now.
So my next question for you would be: is there any advice that you received that helped you in the beginning of your career, and is there a separate piece of advice you would offer to writers that you have learned over the years?
Um, I think I've gotten a lot of great advice in my whole career. Like I talk a lot to other horror authors, and thankfully a lot of them have been willing to help me out when I've needed it. Um, I don't know. Again, there's so many people I've talked to since the beginning of my career, and so much advice I've taken to heart, and I can't really put a timeline on much of it.
Yeah,
Yeah. For new authors who are moving into the writing genre, my big piece of advice is write short stuff first. Write novellas, write short stories. Audience is going to be more willing to take a risk on you with something shorter than a 400, 300-page book. So yeah, take your time, work on building your audience.
that's great advice too. Like maybe not everybody's like, especially starting out. Like everybody's like, I'm writing this novel. I'm like, that's it. That's just diving into the deep end. You know,
Yeah.
you're running before you learn to crawl. So, but
Now, the first book I published was over 300 pages, and like only about 10 to 15 people have read it, I think. It's out of print now, but I'm bringing it back later. But then I focused on the novellas, and that got a crowd growing, and now I can do novel-sized books like The Home.
yeah, so
Yeah.
that's a great piece of advice for authors to understand. Um, with you, now that you've tackled both long and short fiction, which do you particularly enjoy more? Is there one over the other?
I can't choose. I love them all. I'm a huge fan of short stories. I grew up getting anthologies from thrift stores, and that's how I learned who Ramsey Campbell and Ronald Kelly and people like that were. But I also read novels at the same time, and I love writing both. I think whatever the story demands is what the story demands. I'm not going to force something to be a novel just because I want it to, and I'm not
Yeah.
going to shorten something just because I feel I have to.
Has there ever been any of your books that have done that for you? Like you're like, I'm setting out, I'm writing maybe a short story and it completely just ballooned into this novella or novel.
The two novels I'm working on right now both did that. I expected them both to be around 120 pages. One is almost 500 pages now, and the other is over 200. So
Yeah. So
they got big. Yeah.
that's how that's how it happens. Like
Yeah.
you got this idea, you're working on it, you're like, this is I'll have this whipped up in no time and okay, keep going. Oh, I
Oh,
didn't see that coming. Oh,
you don't have to get cosmic with this story, and yeah, I did.
yeah. So the story always dictates to the author, and even if you try and wrestle it and wrangle it in, but story's going to dictate what it wants to be always.
Yeah.
Um, I see that John Ward has joined us, and also Tommy Clark.
Hi, both John Ward and Tommy Clark.
Ollie Landis says that's great advice as someone who is writing a novel is a who is someone who is writing a novel is a lot. Someone who is writing a novel is a lot. Do you get scared to put your work out, and have you ever gotten past that over time? So that's a great
Um,
question, Mike.
yeah. I think I'm always like really confident about a story until like a week before it comes out, and then I'm petrified. Um, and I have to kind of endure those feelings for a little while. I've learned how to compartmentalize a little better.
Yeah.
But it's always scary because you never know how people are going to take something. You never know if that's going to be the book that like makes or breaks the rest of your career or not. Like The Home, I was kind of terrified of that even coming out because I hyped it up so much for people. And now like after that whirlwind of a week when it came out, it's like, oh yay, people did like it. That's nice.
And it's the only book with that title I've ever seen,
Yeah, there's never been another book called The Home
or
ever.
Home, or anything like that.
No variations of it either.
Nope,
There's
none.
certainly never been any books about houses at all. It's a very underrepresented market.
That's funny. I can't even keep a straight face with that
Good.
one. So there you go, Holly. That's the answer to your question. If anybody else has any questions, please drop them in the comments. I'm trying to keep track of them as we go along, so bear with me. Um, but so this is always a fun question to ask authors, and especially ones that have, that are pretty established in their career. So, are you a pantser, plotter, or a hybrid of both?
Hybrid of both. Yeah.
Hybrid of both.
It depends on the
I
book.
Yep.
When I do my weird dream logic things, that's when I'm pantsing, and I always have a great time doing that. But like the next book I'm writing, I have meticulously plotted every single thing in it out, and I'm following that outline very closely.
For Do you have a preference over one from the other, or is it like the story and it dictates what it
Yeah,
needs?
it's the story. It depends on the story. Like I don't know, like Hell City of the Killing Dead, like the whole point of that book is to feel like an Italian splatter story. So I couldn't plot anything out in it. It had to be each scene is as crazy as it can possibly be. Um, but then something a bit more structured like Beast of Burden or Summer Never Ends, I have to map everything out in those.
Yeah, I understand that. And yeah, especially like the bigger a book grows or the more intricate and complex the story
Yeah.
gets, it very well will benefit the author to have a roadmap for such a story.
Now, what I do with every book is I keep a chart of every character I put in it and their description and their age. So I don't have to like search through the document if I forget how old a character is.
That Yeah, that's a great thing to do too. Um, what do you use to write? Well, like what word processor?
I just use the Microsoft one that they give you.
So Word.
Yeah,
Um, because some people swear by, what is it, Scrivener,
I've never
Scrivener with
used
a
it.
B.
I'm very bad with technology, so I'm kind of lucky that I know how to use Microsoft Word, and they keep changing Microsoft Word, which pisses me off.
Yeah.
But sometimes I handwrite drafts and then I write it into Microsoft Word.
I bring up that one because people that say other authors that have that character profiles and stuff, they say it's very easy to use in Scrivener. Like it's got a corkboard feature, I believe, and you can like quickly glance at it. But
I've never
I
even opened Scrivener. Yeah, I didn't
think
even
you
know that was
pay
something
for
I
it,
did. Oh,
so
do you?
that's another barrier for
I don't want
that
it.
particular
You
one.
know, everything used to have like a Word program on it,
Yep,
just on there.
I've been plain Jane Google Docs my
Yeah.
entire writing career, so it's basically Microsoft Word, but with a little bit more leniency for saving because it auto saves. Like
I
after every keystroke.
I'm planning on I have an old typewriter in storage and I'm planning on getting it restored and trying that out for one of my future ones, but we'll see if that even works or not.
I think that would be fun too. Like
Yeah.
very old school.
Set up a
Um,
desk and get the clacking that the whole house can hear. Yeah.
yeah. Let me take a glance at the chat real quick. That's a very cool question that London Blue has. She says, "Do you ever print and autograph your original uh, works and sell or give away? I guess like an original manuscript. Have you ever like printed out or doing or had a handwritten one?" And
Oh, no, those are for me.
yeah,
Um, sometimes I keep them, sometimes I don't. I should keep them all, but
yeah, yeah,
yeah.
absolutely, because that's the retirement plan, right?
Yeah. Just don't have much space. But
Um, have you ever written or planned to write a young adult? And how do you define the fine line between young adult dark fiction versus horror? And that comes from London Blue.
oh, yeah, I kind of came close to it with the Shriekarama spook show experience. I feel like that is more kind of traditional young adult when you were allowed to get away with more violence in young adult books. um,
Yeah,
but you know, if I was going to do like a real young adult book, I would want a bigger publisher behind it, just because there's a lot. And you can talk to Jeff Strand, and I did a panel talking about like modern young adult fiction. And there's a lot of stuff that like, you know, I don't even think about when I write adult fiction because I expect my adult audience to, you know,
yeah,
kind of read it, interpret it for themselves. And you can't really do that as much with young adult fiction anymore. Like, obviously, I'm not saying you have to talk down to younger readers, but you have to be careful with what you say. And I would want to have that oversight if I was doing something legitimate, like a Fear Street or Point Horror type book.
yeah. I think too, maybe like you said, you would want a bigger publisher to do that for you, like to act as the publisher,
Yeah.
because it's a whole different audience you're trying to reach versus the
Yeah.
real world.
And if I did it, I would do it under a different name because I don't with the Judith Sonnet books, I don't want that being connected to younger readers at all.
Right.
Yeah.
Um, that was a pretty awesome question from
I
London
like
Blue.
that question. That's a really good one. Was there a second part to it?
Well, it said, how would you define the difference between young adult dark fiction and horror itself? So
Ooh,
I think you touched on that a little bit, but
okay. Yeah. I'll just go ahead and say like it's sort of like, you know, how extreme horror and splatterpunk gets mixed up. I think a lot of people mix up like children's fiction with young adult fiction. young adult should be the bridge between children's fiction and adult fiction. It should be more challenging. It should be scarier, but it's not too far.
Yeah. I think there are limits you have to use when writing young adult horror or that type of book, because I think language is a big no that you can't exactly use it.
Yeah.
Like horror versus young adult, you might
It
get,
it
it's like
depends.
one.
It's more on gratuity, I think, because like there's some language in Clown in a Cornfield, but there's not a lot of language in it.
What is that? If you want a PG or PG-13 movie to get that
Yeah.
rating, they have like one fuck.
You're
I
allowed
think.
one F word. Yeah.
Yeah.
Use it wisely.
Yeah. Make it count. So yeah.
Yeah. But it's
Um,
like, all the Fear Street books are about, heavy themes. There's like discussions of suicide and divorce, cheating, stalking, stuff like that. It's all very heavy stuff, but it's not handled gratuitously.
yeah. So
Yeah.
and topical for that audience. Like I think that's also important too when you're trying to write different for different audiences, like for adults versus youth. You want to relate that story to what they would be going through. So
Yeah.
you want to tackle YA teen topics like that, like you just said, suicide and those type of things, and then with adult, it kind of has to morph into adult views. So I think
Yeah.
that's one of the fine lines you have to figure out as you're writing for those different audiences. But trying to keep up with the chat. So my next question for you would be, what has been the biggest surprise to you after joining the horror community? And that could be with writing, reviewing, or otherwise.
I think the biggest surprise for me is just talking to the writers that made me want to write when I was younger. Especially like Ronald Kelly. The fact that I get to talk to Ronald Kelly like is stunning to me because I've been reading him for ages and ages and ages, and I didn't think he'd ever know I even existed.
Yeah,
So that it's one of those moments where it was like a huge influence and idol of mine acknowledged my existence, and it just instantly humbled me for a while. But yeah, it's meeting all the people, meeting the readers, having readers. I think the people have been a really good surprise.
yep. I think yeah, definitely Ron Kelly. He's
He's
so
amazing.
gracious and generous with his time, and just truly a kind soul. And it's
I
he is the example the horror community needs.
Yeah. And
So,
he randomly sent me like a giant King Kong statue once.
so just
I'm like, this is
randomly.
like the coolest thing I've ever gotten in the mail. This is awesome.
Yeah, I love Ron Kelly, for sure.
Great.
Like
Yeah.
getting to talk to him and his wife at any of the cons we get to meet up at is always a highlight. Um, and then there's a few authors that sadly have passed away that I would have loved to have met
Yeah.
for sure.
I'm I'm bummed I never got to talk to like Charles L. Grant or Richard Lehman or other authors that have had a strong influence on me.
Yeah,
So I'm trying to talk to as many as I can because I don't want to
yeah,
miss those opportunities. Yeah.
yeah. Same for me. Like just getting to know them as a person outside of their writing that yeah has influenced me or or just entertained me as a reader. Like Brian Keene, he's very generous with his time,
Yeah.
and Wrath,
Oh yeah.
and um, uh, Jay Wilburn. I fortunately got to meet at the first author con and really got to know him just for that brief weekend. So had a huge impact on me. Um, just people like that, like uh, shepherds of the community. So yeah,
Well, it's like they set this horror table for us, and now I get to eat at it, and it's great. But I always need to acknowledge them, and I want to talk to as many as I can and let them know just how much they've influenced, the people coming in behind them.
yeah, absolutely. But I think they understand that too because they were there at one point in their
Yeah.
career, so they understand. And even in books of horror here, you have Ramsey Campbell just popping up randomly, like legendary Ramsey Campbell just in here conversating with basically anybody and everybody that he
Yeah.
finds interesting. So that's crazy. But I need to get him on here. Like I'll have to work out the schedule, but
Oh, that'd be fun. Yeah.
I need to ask Ramsey if he'll come on and
He's
do
great.
one of these. Yeah. Let me catch up on the chat. I don't think we have anything new. So my next question. Well, it's not really a question, but talk to the folks and tell them your event schedule for the rest of the year, where you're going to be at, and
Oh,
which one
goodness.
that they can come
Um,
see you at.
I'm not sure about all the dates, but I'm gonna be at Books and Brews too. Very much looking forward to that. That's gonna be fun. I'm gonna be at Killer Pride, which is sort of spin-off from Scares That Cares.
Yeah.
Also excited for that. And then next year I'm gonna be at Scares That Cares 5, I think it is. Is it 5 or
Uh,
6?
I think 6.
Okay, yeah.
I'm thinking
I'm sure somebody will correct us, but it's the next author
it
con.
might be 5. Yeah, I
Yeah.
don't know. There. It's because of the St. Louis one. It throws a wrench in the works
Yeah.
when you just count on the Williamsburg ones. But supposedly next year they're going to try and do another Midwestern
Cool.
scares of cares, so that'll be fun. I
If
have
they do, I'll be there.
yeah
I'll figure out a way to be there.
yeah. Well, I am. Well, let me see if I can. Yeah, there it is. Maybe. Uh
Oh,
can't see.
you're being consumed by the Books of Horror logo there.
I know it's not. It's just I'm wearing my scare shirt for one of the author cons. I think it was last year's.
Oh, okay.
There's a bunch of books on the back and stuff, but um, yeah, scares is very near and dear to me, and because they just they're great to everyone. So
Yeah.
I will see you at both of those next two events for you. Um, so I'll be at Books and Brews, and I will not be vending at Killer Pride, but I will be coming out to attend, me and my wife, to show our support for Scares and for Killer Pride. So
Oh, cool. We'll look forward to
that
seeing you again.
that
Yeah.
that's going to be a fun one too. I think because the way they seem to be setting it up is almost a blend of AuthorCon and what the Scares That Care charity weekends used to be with all the celebrities because they have both going on at the same time.
Yeah,
Um,
that sounds fun.
they're having some celebrities so far
I'm
that
gonna
they've
have to bring
announced.
some DVDs to get signed.
Yeah, like I forget who the very latest one was, but I remember them announcing Mimi Rogers, and I was like, that's very exciting because she's been on a few things that I enjoyed growing up, like the Lost in Space movie. Love it or hate it, I loved it when I was a kid. So
Was she in that Stage Fright musical? I think
Possibly.
she was. I might be
Amy,
wrong. Yeah.
Amy Rogers has been around for a minute and done quite a few things. So I was trying to. She was in. It says she was in Ginger Snaps.
Uh,
If you've watched Ginger Snaps or Ginger Snaps 2,
oh, Ginger Snaps. Yeah. I'm getting her confused with someone else because she's not in that musical. I was just looking.
she was in Ash versus Evil Dead, and I'm just trying to get the horror related stuff that she's been in.
Yeah.
Uh, One of my favorite shows of all time, Mad Men. So, I could go off on a tangent and rant about Ginger Snaps. I'm not a fan. I know there's like a very dedicated fan base for Ginger Snaps. I just did not enjoy it
It's
whatsoever.
it's been 10 years for me, so I'll have to rewatch it before I say anything about it. I like the shot of the girl impaled on a fence. I remember that.
Chris Christy Tucker says AuthorCon looked so much fun this year. That event is what made me join Books of Horror group. So good to have you here, Christy. I'm glad you enjoyed the event, and hopefully you're enjoying the group.
Yeah. That was a fun event. I had a good time.
Yeah, I every time like it's just fun. Um, we have been joined by Eric Butler, so
Hi, Eric.
there's that. Um, so aside from the events you have going on, what? Okay, this is like a conditional thing, but if you can tell the people what you're currently working on, which we touched on a little bit, and when they can expect the next release from you.
Well, my next release is a collection of chapbooks and novellas called From Dark Places. That's supposed to come out on July 2nd. And that's Amazon changed the royalty rates on my shorter things. So
Yep.
I'm just moving them into one volume so people don't have to pay as much to read them. Um, other than that, I'm almost done with The Pond, which is my next quiet horror book, and I have a publisher lined up for that one. So I can't really say any more than that. Um, and then after that, I'm working on. I'm hoping to get like a few novellas done this summer, so I can have some releases for Halloween and winter.
Awesome. Awesome. If there is anything else anybody wants to ask, now would be the time to do it as we're
Now's a
wrapping it.
good time.
Is there anything you want to touch on that we haven't tonight?
Uh, I haven't seen The Life of Chuck yet. I'm looking forward to it.
Life of Chuck.
Yep.
I
Yeah.
I think sometime this coming up weekend, we're going to try and watch Sinners. We didn't get to go to the theater and see it, but so we're
I
going to
like
try and
that
watch
one.
something.
It's really
So
good.
I know everybody loved it, and I've always been a fan of vampire fiction, no matter what. And it's always like vampire versus werewolf, which one's better? And everybody usually sides with werewolf, saying vampire's been overdone. But when a vampire piece of fiction hits, I think it's top notch. So
I mean,
that's
my
what
hot take is I think the Twilight books are genuinely good. Like,
I own them. I've owned them for several years. I've just never read them.
oh,
But
you should. They're fun.
yeah, so I'm I always give everything a chance at
Not
least
that
once.
Sinners is anything like Twilight,
Yeah.
but yeah, they're very different.
Okay. Christy Tucker says yes, loving reading the Broad books. Read the Home. Woohoo! And that was a good one.
Oh, well, thank you.
Holly Landis says you rock, Judith.
Oh,
London Blue says, "What is your definition of quiet horror?"
Horror that focuses less on violence and gore, more on subtlety. Atmosphere is a big requirement for it. Like a ton of Charles L. Grant's books almost get like lost wandering through the atmospheres of Oxrun Station or the coast or wherever he sets his books, and they're better for it because that atmosphere kind of becomes a character or a villain
Yeah.
on its own. Yeah.
Wasn't the name of his like universe or that area Greystone Bay?
Yeah, there's the Greystone Bay books, and then there's the Oxford Run books.
Okay.
Yeah.
I have many Charles L. Grant books, and I have not read them either. Like just the
I
TBR,
totally
the
butchered. Sorry, I just realized I butchered the name of the town. It's Oxrun Station.
Oxford Station.
Yeah, that's it. Sorry.
Like you're born with a TBR that you will never finish. Like
Mhm.
okay, so I would, yeah, that's a great way of putting it. Like even for me, like my definition of quiet horror was like when the horror is about to happen, it's like the camera pans away and you can maybe hear the gruesomeness but not actually watching it.
Yeah, I think it's another thing people get mixed up, like quiet horror and cozy horror. Like quiet horror can be very gruesome and disturbing. It's just that it leaves it up to you to kind of picture
Yeah.
what it is. Yeah.
Um, Holly Landis wants to know Team Edward or Team Jacob.
Oh, Team Edward. Absolutely Team Edward.
There you go, vampire fan.
Jacob is so like I mean they're both controlling, but oh my god. Jacob's whiny. That's the difference. He's whiny.
London Blue says so, kind of like Hitchcock or old school, where you reader viewer has to use your imagination. So
Yeah, yeah.
yeah,
Although like I wouldn't say like Psycho would be quiet horror. It's for the context of its time. Psycho was like a splatterpunk type thing.
I would have to think about that. But
Yeah.
I think you touched on it
But
too.
yeah.
Quiet horror might often blend with folk horror because a big thing with folk horror is atmosphere. You have to really be thick with the atmospheric presence in the writing, so they might blend well together. So
Like if you want some good movie suggestions for quiet horror, I'd say watch Let's Scare Jessica to Death. That movie is like everything that quiet horror should be.
there you go. Uh,
Rufus, come here. Come
Now
here.
everybody's just talking about Twilight in the comments.
Good. I love Twilight.
Uh,
Hi. Oh my goodness. Want to say hi to the people?
Hi,
Want to say
Rufus.
Rufus, are you being demanding and bossy? He might be.
Absolutely not.
He's a little demanding
Not
sometimes.
spoiled at all.
Oh, no, we don't spoil Rufus.
All right. Um, so with that, I won't keep you any longer, Judith. If you want to tell everyone where they can find you or your books online, please.
Yeah, all my books are on Amazon. Big chunk of them are on Godless if you prefer ebooks. A few of them are on Barnes and Noble. But I'm here on Facebook. I'm on Instagram, full-time hard jumping, and I am on Blue Sky, even though nobody does anything on Blue Sky.
I have I have one person that I talk to on Blue Sky specifically because they dish the meta platforms. So
Yeah. I mean, I've left comments on people's pages and no one ever responds or interacts. So
Yeah. You should.
I'm also on Letterboxd where I do movie diary stuff.
All right. So, Christy Tucker says, "Do you do signed copies?"
I prefer to do them in person. Every now and then, if I have extra stock after a signing or a convention, I'll sell them online. But I am not a big technology person and don't have a website. So
Yeah.
yeah.
One last thing I'm going to add, real quick. What's the Vegas odds this year of whether you're going to sell out at Books and Brews?
I don't even know.
Because
I've heard different things from different authors who were there last year, and I'm bringing as many as I can bring. We'll find out.
because I was table next to you and Asher Darks at STC or STL STC, so St. Louis.
Yeah.
And you sold out rather quick, maybe the second day, I think.
Yeah. But then I thought the same thing would happen at AuthorCon, so I brought like even more books, and then I
Yeah.
just had a lot of books. You can never tell going into a
No.
convention. Yeah.
Every crowd's different, so
Every crowd's different. I'm very appreciative of everybody who comes by my table and buys a book.
absolutely. Thank you for joining me, and I'm glad it worked out a lot better than the first time we tried to
Yeah,
do
I'm glad we could do it this time.
it. So, thank you. And as always, if you ever want to come back on here at any time, reach out to me. And like you have a book coming out or something to promote, please do hit me up, and I'll try to work it out with you.
Thank you. Yeah.
All right.
Have a great day, RJ. It's always good hearing from you.
You too, Judith. Thank you all for joining us, and we will catch you on the next one.
See y'all later.